Hello, today we're going to install front sway bar bushings on a Toyota Corolla. Okay, the first step is to jack up the front of the car using the center jacking point on the front underneath the rad sport. And just a reminder that you should have already set your e-brake and blocked your rear wheels. Okay, now jack it up as high as you can go, and then we'll put the jack stands in. Okay, behind the front wheel on the car, there's a jacking point. There's two notches here to show where the jacking point is. So we just want to take our jack stand and position it in that jacking point. And make the jack stand go up as high as it can. And I think that's it. Okay, you can see the sway bar bushing here is what we're going to be working on today. And unfortunately, this bar is in the way, so we need to undo this fastener to get at the three bolts that hold this sway bar bushing in place. There's a 19mm up front, but we have to get this guy off, and then underneath is another 19mm that you need to take off. Now what's really important is you absolutely need a 19mm deep socket or a 3/4 inch deep socket to complete this job. So bear that in mind before starting. If you don't have those, it's not worth starting because it's very difficult to do it without those. Before we remove this fastener, it's not a bad idea to take as much rust and scale off of it as possible. Otherwise you're going to have to power through all of that oxidation when you take the fastener down. And it just increases the chance of jamming the nut. So just a quick brush like this will help hopefully make life a little bit easier. Okay, now we're going to start unbolting the crossbar. So we'll start by unbolting this side. Okay, I just went to the other side and removed the nut for the other side of the stabilizing bar, but there's really nothing but those two bolts holding it on, so you can just take it down and put it to the side. Okay, next we're going to take out the 12mm bolt here, just in front of where we disconnected the crossbar. Just going to give it a little brush, but I don't think it's going to do anything. So we're going to get a wrench on there, give it a twist. There we go, and the 12mm nut is free. And now we'll go do the same on the other side. Actually, no, I'm not going to do the other side yet. First I'm going to take out this 19mm bolt here. That's pretty tight. I think I might cheat and use an impact. Alright, time to cheat. Okay, I'm not going to take this all the way out just yet. It looks like this bracket's had some damage in the past, so I just want to make sure when I undo this bolt it doesn't spring out of here. Okay, now here's my deep socket. Hopefully I don't need impact action on this because I don't have the deep 19. Here we go. Great. Okay, good. That's breaking free. Okay. There we go, this bracket feels loose, so I'm going to take this rear bolt off. And you can see here what they've done. This is a bolt with a mid head in there, and then so the stabilizing crossbar just bolts onto the end there. And then we'll get off this front fastener here. There we go. It's a serious bolt. And then this bracket should just come down. There we go. Now this is the rubber sway bar bushing, and it's got a split to make it easy to take out. And this one isn't in terrible shape actually, it looks pretty good. But it's not a bad idea to replace them because they're very inexpensive and fairly easy to replace. So what we're going to do now is get our new bushing, lube it up, and reinstall the bracket. Okay, I'm going to grab one of my old socks and clean off the sway bar here. Right where the bushing contacts the sway bar. We just want to get all the dirt and junk out of there. Now for rubber, I'm always a little nervous about rubber because you know, oil-based lubricants will cause rubber to dissolve. So you want to use like a lubricant that's suitable for rubber. So you can use white grease or silicone, but Toyota makes an honest-to-goodness rubber grease, and you can buy this from the Toyota dealership. And you know, it's designed for rubber, so it's not going to disintegrate the rubber. So here's my new bushing. It's a VVt-i, and this is a very inexpensive job. You get I was able to get 2 of these front bushings for $10, so that's only $5 each. So, you know, if you're trying to find a clunking suspension issue, this isn't a bad place to start because it's so cheap. So here's our new bushing. So we're going to want to lubricate it with the Toyota rubber grease. And it's pink. And so we'll just squeeze a little bit out here. And then we'll put the rubber grease inside the bushing here. So we want to make sure it's nicely coated on the inside of the bushing. Now this one has a split towards the top. The OEM Toyota one has a split towards the rear, so the split would go rearward. But you'll see here how it's got a peaked top on here. There's also a peaked top right up here. So that peak mates with that peak. So we'll take the bushing, open up the split, mate the peaks, and then we'll just lubricate the outside of the bushing while it's up there. And actually, we might as well lubricate the top as well, because we don't want it to squeak anywhere. And since it's contacting the top of the chassis there, we'll lubricate the top of this bushing as well. Put it back. There we go. It's all greasy now. Okay, now that our grease bushing is in place, we're going to take our bracket. Now, unfortunately, this bracket looks pretty mangled. It looks like it's something I should probably replace, but for the time being, I'm just going to reinstall it. And you can't install it backwards because it's got this 12mm nut hole there. So, I mean, you can't mess this up. So we're just going to locate our 12mm nut stud there. We'll take the bracket, put it over top. And there's a little tang right in here. If you see this tang on the bracket, that tang slits into this little locating slot right here. So just make sure that's in there correctly. And then that 12mm nut will be exposed. And then we can hold it in place just by hand tightening that 12mm nut. And again, we don't want it to be tight yet. We just want to locate the bracket with it. And then we'll start installing the bolts back where they belong. So the regular 19mm bolt goes towards the front. Make sure we get that started. Okay, it's started pretty good. And then we take our fancy 12mm bolt with the intermediate nut on there, and then we'll slide it into this hole in the back, and we'll get that finger tight. Okay, and now we'll torque them down. Alright, I'll start with the back one. Now remember, if you don't have a deep 19, 3/4 will work just as well. It's only 2 thou difference, so for all intents and purposes they're the same. And again, don't torque one down all the way. Make sure they're both touching before you start actually giving them torque. Now if you have a torque wrench, that would be ideal, but as these are 19mm fasteners, you can go pretty nuts without doing any damage, but it's always advisable to torque these to torque spec. Alright, then last but not least, we will do the 12mm guy. Make sure he's snug and tight. Now, I wouldn't go crazy on the 12mm, that's for sure. And I like to use a 1/4 inch drive on 12mm because it enforces discipline to keep it from being over tightened. Because I used to be very bad for that. I'd always over torque everything. Be known for snapping fasteners. Alright, we'll apply final torque. And again, if you have torque specs and a torque wrench, that would be ideal. But if not, just make the 19s tight. Okay. Now it's a little tight under here, so I'm not going to video doing the other side, but it's exactly the same. We've already got the crossbar off, so don't forget to reinstall that when you're done and make sure it connects on both sides. And yeah, the other side's the same. With the crossbar off, you've got the 19mm special bolt on the back, the 19mm regular bolt on the front, and then the 12mm locating bolt right in the middle. So again, when you're done, reinstall the crossbar like so, and install the nut, the 14mm, and you should be all done. Alright, after that it'll be job done for me. Thank you very much for watching.